I'm Mary Wing Soares, and I'm here again with Town Planner Tim Thompson for a riveting episode of Agenda Item. And riveting it is this month, folks, because we have many, many things on our agenda. I'm very excited that we're going to have some interesting things to speak about.
Sure. We're back to 2 meetings again this month, so this will be our second consecutive month having both meetings.
Woohoo!
Yes, it's starting to pick up again. For our meeting on October 6th, the first thing we're going to be doing is adopting a couple of amendments to the Planning Board's Rules of Procedure. We've gone over those during the month of September. They're relating to a new state law that was passed that requires the Planning Board to put in its Rules of Procedure the role of the alternates and how they participate in meetings. So that's the minor change that we're talking about there.
And that change is just a formality for us.
It's a formality for us because we've been operating that our alternates participate fully in our meetings to get experience, to learn how the process works, and they participate up to voting unless they're specifically appointed by the chair to vote for an absent member. There's been some debate among municipal attorneys across the state prior to this law as to whether or not alternates really could do that under state law, so the legislature clarified that, but you do have to have it in your rules of procedure.
Now, right now, do we have a full complement of alternates?
We do. We have a full board. We have our full 9-member board plus 3 alternates. So,
great. It's good to see so many people involved and interested in the board.
Following that, we do have 3 public hearings for the first meeting of the month. The first is Public Service Company of New Hampshire. They're currently doing their tree trimming and branch trimming to make sure that their power lines are clear across town. But they're also proposing to do it on Adams Road, and because that is a state-designated scenic highway, requires a public hearing with the Planning Board prior to that cutting taking place on Adams. So there'll be a representative from PSNH there at the meeting to show which trees specifically are proposed to be cut, and then ultimately to get the Planning Board's blessing on that.
Now, this is townwide that happens, right?
It is a townwide project, but this is the lone scenic road designated under statute, so under the rules of the statute, we do have to hold a public hearing for that.
So should people, though, across the town expect that at some point or another they will be
during the fall or early spring, I would expect that PSNH will be out with their tree crews making sure that their lines are clear and try to avoid any interruptions in service due to branches and other tree-related issues.
You don't expect that they would get through that by the end, by the beginning of the winter?
The letter I saw was specific just to this roadway and mentioned that it was part of a larger project.
I'm sure that if folks, though, saw that there were trees that were overhanging their lines, it would behoove them to call.
Absolutely.
And point it out to PSNH because, we could have another ice storm.
Absolutely. Next on the agenda is Home Depot. They're coming in to discuss with the Planning Board additional outdoor display areas and cart corrals that they'd like to put up on the site. As people probably know, the Home Depot facility with Staples, the 99 restaurant and Dunkin' Donuts off Route 102. Looking at the aerial photography, the area we're really talking about is the front of the store. The plan that they've provided at this point, when this plan was originally approved by the Planning Board back in the year 2000, there were very limited areas to the front of the building that were allowed for outdoor and seasonal display. They've had several different managers turn over the course of the last 10 years, and there's been an ongoing discussion with the town and code enforcement with new managers as they turn over as to what the requirements are. At this point, Home Depot's corporate office has moved forward, made this request to the board to look at amending the plan to allow additional outdoor seasonal storage areas to the front of the building.
Now, right now, when we go to Home Depot and we see all of the displays that they have in the front, I mean, as a shopper, I notice that it's always well kept. What is the reason that they're not allowed to have them everywhere they want?
It was, again, going back, and this was when I first started with the town. It's a little fuzzy in my recollection, but there was a concern based on other Home Depots around the state at the time that the outdoor displays tended to overtake the front of the stores, get into pedestrian areas and into traffic lanes. So I think the Planning Board back at that time wanted to limit specifically to very limited areas where that display could take place so that we didn't end up with a cluttered outside of the store.
Well, are they speaking, when they come, are they asking for it in front of the places that doesn't have the overhang?
That's my understanding, is the areas in red on the plan here would be the areas that they're looking at adding some additional storage. The areas that it's a little difficult to see, there's a dark shaded area here and here. Those right now are the areas specifically identified in the plan on the front of the store that allow for outdoor storage. So the proposal they're bringing would basically encompass the entire front of the store.
Right. Well, I think, you know, our concern has always been that we want people to be able to walk into the store without having to walk around displays, and especially during the season, during the winter and the spring when we have a lot of rain and snow.
And this is one of those areas where, as staff, we'll present the technical aspects of it and what would need to be put into the plan set, but ultimately this is a discretionary decision of the board.
Right.
That the board needs to make a determination on the aesthetics and the functionality of the site.
And anyone in town watching our show that has an opinion about this, please come to the planning board meeting and express it, because that's how the planning board members know how you feel. And then next we have...
After that, right next door, we have McDonald's is looking to do a couple of different things. They are going to be renovating the exterior of the building entirely with their new architecture, doing a small storage addition to the building. They're also proposing to do what they're terming the double drive-through, which they've been incorporating at their franchises across the country, which allows them to process more orders through their drive-through. And apparently the way it works is they actually take a photograph of the car and the license plate so that when you merge the two vehicles, they know which order goes with which car.
Oh my goodness, Big Brother is watching.
But they have been to the Heritage Commission. The original designs that were presented to the Commission went over about as well as a lead balloon. It was basically their corporate stock architecture. Did they forget they were in Londonderry? They may have. I think it was, again, to start the conversation. In the second meeting, they've still retained the new design that they've done for their franchises across the country, but they've tried to maintain the existing color and look of the existing building that's here today. So it would be the gray clapboards with some stone work around the entrances and the window areas. So it did get a positive recommendation from the Heritage Commission, and they'll be coming forth.
And are those awnings?
I believe they're decorative awnings. I don't think they're really functional.
Okay. Well, I'll look forward to seeing the full presentation.
And that covers our meeting for October 6th. Our second meeting on October 13th, we have a couple of projects. The first being New Hampshire Department of Transportation is going to be coming in to give the board and the town an update on their South Road wetland mitigation project.
And I see you have them first on the agenda.
I did put them first. They were scheduled originally for July, but we had a very long agenda that night, and they have opted to reschedule to this month. We've graciously put them first so we can get them in and out. This is associated with the I-93 widening and wetland mitigation. They just want to update the town on the process and how that project is moving forward. Now,
did I just read that there was the governor agreed to the widening all the way from Salem to, is it Concord?
The federal government has now approved the design of the entire I-93 widening from Salem to Manchester. The funding is still not in place for that at this point.
So that's still a question
That's still a hurdle that the state and the feds still need to come up with. But the actual design has now gone through the hurdles of the lawsuits, and the Federal Highway Administration has finally given their final approval for the design at this point.
All right.
Our second item on the agenda for the 13th is a conceptual discussion from NeighborWorks Greater Manchester, which is centered in Manchester, affordable housing advocacy and development group. They're looking at the Whittemore Estates project that was approved about 6 or 7 years ago for elderly housing, and converting that project into a mix of workforce units and market rate development. The original approval was for 83 units and a mix of townhouses and garden style. The proposal that they're going to be presenting conceptually to the board is a mix. It's all townhouse style development, maximum of 8 units per building, which would comply with the new ordinance that will be before the town council, the first meeting of October for the council to consider that new zoning change. And they'll be similar to a project that they've recently completed in Goffstown. Again, they're looking for some initial planning board feedback. The Whittemore Estates project, as you may know, has only constructed one building at this point. Has, I think, only 1 or 2 occupants of that building and has been stalled, and the owners of the property have changed hands, I believe, 3 times since the original approval. So they're looking to get something to work for the site, and NeighborWorks has long shown an interest in doing a project here in Londonderry, and they think this might be the opportunity that makes the most sense, being on a major arterial roadway and across the street from an existing multifamily development, being the Mountain Home Estates project. So that
they look, you know, they look pretty.
They're very nice contemporary style, 2-story townhouse buildings, and from what I've seen so far, NeighborWorks does a pretty good job with their projects.
Well, we'll look forward to hearing them.
And then, last but not least,
our CIP
is the capital improvements plan.
Now, I know that you're going to go through this whole thing, but I was at the school board meeting last night, and one of the things they're doing is their NEASC accreditation for the high school. So that's a 10-year cycle. And for the past 20 years, the 2 comments that have made it into both of those things was the fact that we don't have an auditorium. And I know we discussed this at the CIP meeting, but the auditorium is on the last year, and then it's
actually, construction is outside the 6-year program.
The
it's
A&E
just the
would be
architecture and engineering right now, scheduled for fiscal year 17.
So I would encourage people to come to our second meeting of the month so that they might discuss that, because the planning board does have the option of changing that, moving it forward. Just 1 year would be, you know, my suggestion, so that we have both A&E and construction in the plan, within the scope of the plan. But anyway, I'm only one vote on the planning board.
What I wanted to do for purposes of this show today was just to give an overview of what a CIP is, how the process works here in Londonderry, and then briefly go over what we'll be presenting to the planning board on October 13th.
Okay.
Basically, a CIP is an advisory document.
Okay, well, let's tell them what CIP stands for.
CIP stands for Capital Improvements Plan. It's a requirement by statute. For those communities that have growth management ordinances and impact fees, you have to have both a master plan and a capital improvements program. So this is an important tool as part of our overall regulatory environment and our planning tools to ensure that we're making appropriate capital investments in the community over the course of a 6-year period. Its purpose really is to guide the council, budget committee, and the school board in their annual budgeting process, so we can look at stabilizing tax rate over the course of time to make sure that we don't have spikes. We prioritize and schedule those capital improvements that are the large big ticket items over the course of time, so that we have at least an anticipation of what the priorities of the community are. Again, it's advisory. It doesn't have any force of law. The ultimate funding decisions on that are still made through the budgeting process, through the school board, the town council, budget committee, and then ultimately at town meeting. The inclusion of projects.
Well, at least this year.
At least this year. It still will be a town meeting of some sort.
That's true.
Again, it's the inclusion of projects in the CIP doesn't mean they're endorsed by the CIP committee. Again, it's just trying to bring attention to the town what their priorities are in hopes of facilitating that decision making. A capital project is a project that's at least $100,000 and a useful life of at least 5 years. Typically talking about buildings or additions, large land purchases, studies, road improvements, or major vehicle and equipment purchases. You cannot include operating costs and personnel. Generally, maintenance and repair don't fall under the scope of a CIP project unless it's substantial enough that it gets to that $100,000 level and useful life of 5 years. There's a variety of different methods for funding these: general fund, capital reserve, lease purchase, bonding, impact fees, tax increment financing at some point perhaps in the future, grant funding obviously, and then there's opportunity for public and private partnerships. The CIP also utilizes a 6-point priority schedule. Those are, if it's a priority 1 project, the committee believes it's urgent and it cannot be delayed, it's needed immediately for health and safety. Priority 2 are those projects that are necessary, needed within 3 years to maintain a basic level and quality of services. Priority 3 is those that are desirable, needed within 4 to 6 years. Priority 4 are projects that are deferrable until outside of the 6-year scope of the current project, but it's still supportive of our community development goals. Priority 5 projects are those that are premature, that need more research, planning, and coordination. And then lastly, priority 6 are any projects that are submitted that are contrary to the land use or community development goals of the community.
And this year we had priority 1 through 5. I don't think we had anything that was 6.
We didn't have any, I think we had 1 6 this year.
Did we have something that
Yes.
was inconsistent?
Just an overview of how the process works here in Londonderry. Sometime after town meeting, the Planning Board, Town Council, and School Board and Budget Committee will select representatives to the Capital Improvements Planning Committee. In late May or early June, the committee will meet for the first time, elect a chair and vice chair, develop a meeting schedule, and the project submission deadlines. At that point, town staff, which is myself, the finance director and administrator, the assistant town manager for finance and administration, and the school finance and business coordinator, work on putting together.
Tough with all those different titles, isn't
the
it?
titles change, it seems, every other year too.
Yeah, that's how come they don't pay you more money, they just change your titles, right?
We prepare a memo that's sent out to all the departments, boards, and commissions in town informing of the deadline and to submit projects if they want them included. In July, those submissions are due and they're received by my office. They're set up on a form that basically the project, then if you have multiple projects in your commissioner department, your department priority, what the effect of that is, the service area, a description and rationale. And then the cost estimates, where the source of funding is, and then lastly, each project proposer also scores their project on criteria that whether or not it addresses emergency or public safety needs, deficiency in a service or facility, added capacity to serve existing population or future growth, long-term cost savings, job development and tax base, the 2004 master plan, leveraging non-property tax values, and then matching funds in those areas where we're looking at grants and whether or not they're available or not.
Well, I know that you all developed this. You and other members of the CIP
Yes.
over the past 3 years, 5 years, have developed this scoring system, which has made a huge improvement
Yes.
in the speed in which the things are scored. But it also, I think, has given the people that are submitting a much bigger say in how they feel about
Absolutely.
it. And it, you know, gives them your...
Prior to me taking over the CIP process, about it's either 5 or 6 years now I've been doing it. The capital improvements plan, back before I started, was just a bunch of spreadsheets that had projects and where the committee decided to slot them.
Right.
What we've tried to do over the last 5 or 6 years is make this more of a document that, you know, looks at rationale, looks at making sure there are priorities set up, and it has a supporting document and a plan that goes with it in addition to those spreadsheets that talk about tax impact and costs and things of that nature. So we've tried to make this a more robust document that's more user-friendly and more effective in communicating the priorities for the community.
And while I know that you do look at when bonds are removed from there, when we've paid off the bonds, we also don't say, okay, well, guess what, we paid off 20 million, let's go spend it. It's only what the town as a whole needs.
That's the recommendations that come from the committee, and ultimately the planning board are recommending to the council and the school board, you know, we should probably delay this until we get some of the other existing debt off the boards, or this is too important, we need to do this now. That's the whole purpose of doing this type of process.
But the other thing that is true about our town is that we are not nearly as in debt as what we could be,
Certainly. Statutorily.
Statutorily. And I think that's important to note because we've had some very good financial planners in our town.
We have, and part of our bond rating as a community is our doing of a capital improvements plan and making sure and showing to these bonding agencies that yes, we're planning for and prioritizing these types of projects, so we understand what our debt loads are going to be in the future as they set the rating that we would get for an interest rate on these bonds. And we've been very fortunate that given our good standing and the way we've managed our debt, we have been getting extremely good interest rates from the municipal bond market.
That is good.
Continuing on with our process, in August, the committee does their major meeting, which they hear presentations on selected projects, usually those that are $1 million or more, or specifically that are requested from the committee. They then score, prioritize, and place the projects into the 6-year program covered by the CIP. And this is just an example from this year. The little chart showing the project, which department is proposing it, the cost, where it was in last year's plan, the score that the department or board gave it, the score from the committee, the priority, and then the assignment into the 6-year program.
Right. I was just going to say, we did have a very good presentation on open space this year, and we do have the town council has asked for a new study on open space, and I hope the town pays attention to that study, given that Woodmont Orchards is a huge piece that was lost. So,
what happens after that is the staff will prepare the draft plan, perform the financial analysis and the tax impact analysis of all those projects. And then when you get into the actual plan itself, it turns into a variety of spreadsheets. The first being the summary of the project, showing 2 years in the past, what's already happened. The yellow column is the current budget year that we're considering, which in this case is fiscal year 12. And then the blue columns to the right are the future out years, this being fiscal year 13 through 17 for both the town side and the school side.
So it allows us to see the potential debt that we would incur.
That doesn't, but this does.
Okay.
This is where we get into the next set of spreadsheets of the financing plan, where you take each of those projects that was in that first spreadsheet and you look at, for example, the roadway reconstruction program. The project cost is $1 million for that year. It's a bond or $1 million note. The actual net payout on that particular bond is $20,000 in that first year. So this is now gets into the bond scheduling, whether or not it's capital reserve, general fund. This next set of spreadsheets goes through and does the financing plan for each of the projects that are in that first spreadsheet. So it covers all the different projects, both on the school side and the town side. Again, this is now for the school side. And then the last thing that we have for spreadsheets is our tax impact analysis, which takes those first two spreadsheets, looks at principal, interest, debt payments, your current revenues, and then comes up with ultimately the tax impact on the municipal projects, the tax impact on the school projects, and you get a combined tax impact, which varies from year to year, but the ultimate goal is to try to keep it as consistent as possible.
Right. So I guess I should have asked this question while we were having the meeting, but does that also take into consideration everything that was currently in?
Yes.
Okay.
So
probably that's why I didn't ask it, because you said it.
For example, the roadway reconstruction program, you can see in the past there's the $1.5 million bond and the $1 million bond for the last 2 years. So these payments include each of those moving forward.
All right.
Then we get, at that point, the process shifts from the committee to the planning board. The planning board holds an initial workshop session, which we held in September. And then we're now at the point where in October we'll be holding the public hearing on the capital improvements plan. Assuming it gets adopted by the board, it will then be presented to the council, school board, and budget committee in November. So as they start beginning the budget consideration for the next fiscal year, they'll have the plan in their hands to be able to plan that better. Then at that point, it's up to the council and school board to decide whether or not they place any of those projects from the budget year into the budget or on the warrant for town meeting. Then lastly, the voters at town meeting have the final say. Any expenditures ultimately have to be approved by the voters. And then after town meeting, we start all over again.
Because we have seen in the past where the CIP has recommended that we build, for example, a fire station.
North Fire Station is a perfect example of that.
Right. And the town council decided not to put it on the warrant.
Yep.
So
in those cases, again, when we start the process again, the next after town meeting again, we evaluate which projects are still on the books that we had proposed, and then we shift projects around as needed based on what happened, based on votes, which projects did or did not make it to the warrant. For this year, we have no priority 1 projects.
Which is really a good thing. It means that we have all the fire, stations we need, all the police stations we need, the town hall is, all of these things are good. With schools, everything is good.
Absolutely. We have several priority 2 projects, those being the roadway rehab and reconstruction program proposed for $1 million annually. The Pettingill Road upgrade, which is a $12.3 million project that we've been very active in seeking grant funding for, that hopefully will be successful to knock the town share of that project down significantly.
And I know that we asked Andre when he expected to hear about that. Is that?
We haven't heard yet, but we're hopeful that by this meeting in October we might have some initial feedback from federal DOT to see where we're at.
So another good reason for people to come to the meeting, to hear that. Whether or not they're going to have to shell out $12 million.
Somehow I think if we're not successful with the grants, I don't think this will probably make it to the warrant.
Probably not this year anyway.
Next priority 2 is the highway garage improvements. This is phases 2 and 3 proposed for this year and next year from their maintenance trust fund. looking at updating our corridor studies for Route 28 and Route 102 for our impact fees. Sanborn Road offsite improvements. This was a new project proposed by the Senior Affairs Committee. They're looking at doing a elderly housing, affordable elderly housing project on Sanborn Road. There are some significant offsite improvements associated with that, and they're hopeful that through the they're looking at federal HUD 202 grants, that they're hopeful to be able to offset the cost of the sale of the property from the town to the developer to utilize that for offsite improvements. So the CIP committee supported that as long as there was no taxpayer impact. And lastly, under priority 2 is the new school administrative office, which is proposed for fiscal year 14 and 15. For priority 3 projects, we have the master plan update, $100,000 of which has already been appropriated at the town meeting in 2008. So we're looking for the final $50,000 of that for fiscal year 12. Recovery Way drop-off center improvements using the Reclamation Trust Fund monies that are available from that. GIS maintenance and upgrade program, we're proposing to do a capital reserve fund to make sure that we can keep the system up to date. Central Fire Station is proposed for fiscal years 14 and 15. Open space, as we discussed, has been put in fiscal years 13 and 14, which would follow the work of the new Open Space Task Force. And then the South Londonderry sewer for Phase 2 is proposed for fiscal year 15.
Now, who will that affect? I mean, obviously South Londonderry, but
it's primarily the area, when you look at 102, it's the area west of the Mammoth Road intersection with 102 to the south. It's basically that area that it's an important economic development tool. It was originally when we had Old Londonderry, or then an elderly housing project, and then the Berkshire project that had originally come through with concept plans. All of those would have funded a large portion of that sewer upgrade had they moved forward with their projects. Ultimately, they didn't, so the project remains in the capital improvements plan at this point.
Right. So with Woodmont Orchards happening, though, you know, hopefully that might bring some other...
Completely separate area.
No, I know it is, but I'm just saying, because they'd be bringing many more people into our area, perhaps we would get some more interest down there. It may trigger something.
Sure. So, another sewer project for Mammoth Road. This is proposed for fiscal year 15. School district-wide renovations. This would be a new project from the school district to do major renovations across the district for fiscal year 16. And then, as we mentioned at the beginning of the discussion here, the auditorium for the school proposed for fiscal year 17 for architectural and engineering, and then the construction following outside of the 6-year program as it's proposed right now. Priority 4 projects, these are those that were consistent but deferrable. Historic property preservation program, pump station, another North Mammoth Road sewer extension, and then the cable center addition was also put into that category. Priority 5 project, the senior center is looking to potentially expand their facility on Mammoth Road once the North Fire Station is relocated. They don't have a cost yet determined on that, so that's why that made it priority 5. There's more study needed on that. Then lastly, priority 6, which was found to be inconsistent by the CIP committee, was a fire department small equipment replacement project, which they didn't feel met the definition of what a capital project was.
Can we just go back to the cable expansion? Because even though that is a priority 4 project, and that's a recommendation from the planning board, the town council could decide...
They could still decide to, absolutely.
That they could approve that. They can ask the voters to approve it, right? Because that is coming from the cable reserve fund. It's not taxpayer money. Is that your
apparently my extension cord's not working really well.
Okay. Well, it's probably telling us it's time to wrap this up anyway, Tim. So
again, year by year project costs, this highlights there's obviously a big spike in fiscal year 12, the majority of that being Pettingill Road, but hopefully again most of that will be grant funded. And then our tax impact analysis, where it's basically right around $2 is the rough target. Looking at $2.22 for fiscal year 12, $1.88, $1.83, $2.08, moving forward into the out years of the program. We also need to take into account the Exit 4A project. This was an approved project from a previous town meeting. However, we haven't yet incurred any of the debt service on that project.
Haven't we incurred $1 million of it?
About $500,000 of it. It's in terms of, there's basically $4.5 million of unauthorized, unissued debt at this point. And the estimation at this point from the town manager's office is that that will be a 20-year bond sold in fiscal year 13 and the payments starting in fiscal year 14.
Okay.
And then, as I always do, I give my many thanks to the CIP committee and staff members that make this possible. This year it's John Farrell is our chair from the council. Our vice chair is Ron Campo from the school board. Yourself and Rick Brito from the planning board. Budget committee was John Curran with Lisa Ludamore and John Jorgensen as alternates. And then the other staff that helped me out immensely on this is Sue Hickey, our assistant town manager, Peter Curo, and Margot LaPietro, our executive secretary, who does a nice job keeping us on task and making sure our minutes are complete. So. Yeah,
and Tim, we have to turn around and thank you, because trust me, if it weren't for you, this would not be done, no matter what.
It was a challenge when this was reassigned, when my job was reclassified, and I've really tried hard to make this a document that's more useful to the community than it was in the past.
And it has. It has become a very good tool for the community. You know, I hope people take advantage of that, because you've made it reader friendly. Anybody who, even if you don't have a background in business, can understand. Sure. So. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Agenda Item, and we hope to see you at the planning board meetings. If not, email us and let us know your comments, because it's all about you. It's all about, this is your town, so we need your input. Thank you, and again, thank you, Tim.